Welcome back to the Renegade Report. I'm Francis Mir, Sports Information Director for the greatest junior college athletic program in the known universe. And quite possibly, the judges are still reviewing the materials, but maybe the best athletic department in the whole universe, period. We'll get back to you on that. Right now, we have
You're not biased. You're not biased at all on that.
I'm not, Jeff. I'm not. You didn't even let me introduce you. This is Jevons. Jeff Evans of the Bakersfield Californian. And Jeff, you cover college athletics here in Bakersfield, correct?
That is correct.
And how long have you been following BC athletics?
Well, if you count the fact that I went to high school in the area and I followed them a little bit there, but as far as from a professional journalist perspective, since about 1985.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you remember before Coach Dahl. What, you didn't know he was there that long?
No, I said I can't
Well, there
believe
is
how
a coach.
old he is.
No, you're forgetting that there is a Coach Dahl before Coach Dahl.
Yeah, and she was actually at our last home playoff.
Jenny
game.
Dahl was a wonderful coach at Bakersfield College before Paula Dahl took over, and they're not related, which is interesting in itself. And but she had some wonderful teams here as well. Now, nobody had a 23-5 season and won an outright, but she had some very, very good teams. She got a lot out of her teams and did a very good job. And the college did very well when that program was under her control.
Now, Steve Lynch, our colleague, he says he feels like this might be one of the best women's teams ever fielded at the college. Where do you weigh in on that?
Well, I think that he's right, and I think it's maybe more from a depth perspective because you've got, as you mentioned in the last segment, you've got about 8 players that can really contribute, and that's pretty rare, from a local team perspective, especially when you're relying on all local players. To get a class where you get that much depth is really it's a special group, and it showed. I mean, there's been a lot of long years up there, and the year they had this year just it helps you. It just helps you kind of ride through the rough ones because you have a special group, and this was a special group, and it's unfortunate that they ran into a buzzsaw last night, but Irvine Valley is one of the best teams in the state, and they got it. They had a home game, and they were firing on all cylinders. It sounds like, and when that happens, it's tough to win. And but Bakersfield College has nothing to be ashamed of. They had a great season. And what Paula did with those young ladies was just a spectacular year.
It was. I mean, they won 8 games in a row after hitting a bump in the road back in January, and made a firm run for the playoffs. Switching gears real quick to the men's, and we will come back to the women's. Actually, a closing thought on the women. It sounds like, judging from what Coach Gabby said and from what Rosebrook said, they weren't firing on all cylinders last night. Maybe if they had another go at him, say this Saturday, maybe it turns out differently.
Well, you never know, but again, Irvine Valley shot well. Bakersfield College only shot 31%. They only hit 6 of 18 free throws. I mean, there was a lot of things. They scored the first 2 points of the game, and then that was their only lead of the game, for Bakersfield College. And, when you're down 20 with 2 or 3 minutes to go, you can try as hard as you want, but you're not going to win that game, and that's unfortunate. But again, that doesn't take away from the fact that, once you get to the final 8, you're going to be running into good people. I mean, Irvine Valley they're like 27-3, and the 3 teams they lost to, one is COS, who's number 1 in the state, who just blew out somebody by 50 points last night. They lost to East LA by 1 point, who they're going to play in a rematch this week, and then they lost to Palomar, who's also alive in the playoffs. So you're talking about a team that's got 3 losses, and the 3 teams they're playing are still alive. That tells you how good Irvine Valley is, and they haven't had a whole lot of close games either. So they're good, and you're playing them in their yard, so you got to really be playing your best to have a chance to beat a team like that. And unfortunately, when you're only shooting as low as you did, that's not going to do it.
No, it's not. And the men's team almost has the opposite problems. They had 2 extremely dominant players, but not a lot of depth. What grade would you give the men's team this season?
Oh, again, they've had the last couple of years they've struggled a little bit, and this year they had the stronger year they've had in the last 2 or 3. You have the best big man they've had here in many years, and the guard, Jameek, has had a great year. So, I'd say you got to give them a good B, B grade, I'd say. And now the best teams I've seen up here, I missed the 1978 state championship team, Ralph Cravy's team, which has to be the best team to ever be up there, no question. And if you look at that team, they had 5 really, really good players. A lot of them went on the Division I level. And then Mark Arcee had a team that made it all the way to the state championship game one year, and they had Brandon Kurtz,
that's who it was.
Who went to Tulsa, I believe, out of here. 6'10" player out of Centennial High School. Again, when you had the best big man in the state that year, he rode that pony all the way, and Mark did a really good job on that team. Again, that was a long time ago because Rich has now been at Bakersfield for a lot of years, and that was, Mark, of course, was at Cal State as an assistant on Pat Douglas's early years there, and they had that was a wonderful team, and it wasn't just Kurtz; they had some other players too, but he was the main guy. But those two teams are the best they've had up here, in my opinion. And then, Rich had a couple of pretty good teams in his earlier years, I think.
06-07, they were ranked number 1 in the state going into the playoffs. They won 30 games that year.
Yeah, so that would be right up there with that, too. So you got, those, and then that was his best team, I think, easy to say. And then like you said, if you can shore up and he's got a great foundation coming back from what you said in the last segment. If you got guys like that as a base, and then you can bring in some additional people to shore up maybe areas that weren't as strong this year, then you've got a chance to maybe make a little bit of a run next year. After assuming everybody stays healthy and stays eligible, and they don't lose somebody to a transfer somewhere else. That's obviously the other thing.
Okay, speaking of forecasting, I feel like neither of you two are nearly excited enough about what I'm about to remind everybody. Curtis McGregor is coming back to play football for the Renegades next season. Yagi is coming back to play football for the Renegades. Derek Vickers is going to be there. How good could this Renegade football team be? And why aren't you guys more thrilled about McGregor coming back?
I talked to Curtis McGregor a few weeks ago when it appeared that he was going to be back, and I said to him, from your perspective, I feel bad that you're not getting an opportunity to get it at a higher level, but when you have an injury and knocks you out for an entire year, he really didn't have, probably a lot of options, because of the fact if he would have played all year, he would have had a great opportunity. I said, feel bad for you, but I feel good for Bakersfield College, and I feel good for him that he's going to come in here, and he's so focused. He's a great player on that team, great leader on that team, and he was going to be the main guy this year, and now they have the main guy back, and they have Derek Vickers with a year of experience back. They're going to miss Marquise Johnson, fabulous wide receiver, one of the best receivers they've ever had. He of course has completed his eligibility and was a great player for him. And they're going to have to have that offensive line's going to have to be strong because again you don't have holes to run through. And this is the one thing that this team is so much stronger now. Because of the league they're playing. They had some easy opponents back in a lot of these earlier years when they had some great numbers. But now, with the way that the state is set up, you're playing good people week in and week out. And that's going to be the toughest challenge. Riverside right out of the gate game 1, and they were as good as anybody this year. You don't play Mount Sac this year, but Ventura's going to be good. Canyons will be good. You've got a lot of good teams, so we'll see what happens this year.
Well, and in the Ventura game, I was down on the field for that, not up in the press box with you fine gentlemen. And by the way, we have a fun press box, don't we?
We do. We do have a fun one. So, yeah, it's really fun watching Steve's interaction with some of the other staff people in there.
Yeah, let's not talk
let's just say that being on the over the air here, we would lose the FCC would probably fine us if some of the dialogue that went on back and forth between everybody.
Let's not talk about that.
Jeez, this guy. There's also a lot of arcania, a lot of just insane sports talk, and thank goodness we're actually separated from the announcer's booth. It is a dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless. Steve, you have got to be excited to be coming back to do stats again next year. Do you think McGregor?
Yeah, obviously it's a huge, bonus for BC that he's coming back. I guess my excitement has just been tempered by the fact that it's hard to get my mind wrapped around football right now when I'm, so focused on basketball and wrestling, and I really haven't started, thinking about football yet.
Well, Chris is telling me that we got to go, so that is all for this week. Thank you for tuning into the Renegade Report. You can learn more at gogades.com.